Hello and welcome back. We've got the old 1962 catalogue here, 8th edition, with one of Terence Cuneo's fantastic images on the front. We ended last week's video with a look at page 6 from this, with the old Magnahesian, but we want page 32 and 33 today, so we'll just flip this open. There we go, there's lots of wonderful items on there, aren't there? And there we go, we've got the automatic train control set there. We've got the old price list, dated 1st January 1962. We'll just flip it open and have a look at the relevant section. Operating accessories, and there we go at the bottom. R.406 automatic train control set, and currently doesn't have a price, looks like it was available summer of that year. We'll just pop that down. And here we have an automatic train control set in its original box. Bit tatty the box, it's been fixed with sellotape. And there we do have its price look, 17 and 6. And it's rubber stamped on the end, R406 automatic train control set. Wonderful thing to have, little bits of sellotape still stuck to it here and there. And we'll have a look at the contents of that in a moment. We'll just pop that down and have a look at the catalogue. Let's just pop the price list to one side. So if I lift that up, we'll have a closer look at what it says here. I think this is really terrific. It says Auto Magic. No one at the controls yet. One train starts, the other stops, as if by magic, with the R406 automatic train control set. Now that's quite some claim, isn't it? And we'll just see the contents of the set there. So we'll just pop that down. And here we have an oval track with the automatic train control fitted. Now the red train's going to come to a stop at the station. As the black train runs over the first trip switch, it energises the track in front of the red train, and then the red train goes over the second trip switch and makes the track behind it dead. And that will just keep going around and round and round until we turn off the controller. So I'm sure there are many ways of doing this now with microcontrollers and so on, but back in 1962 for an off-the-shelf solution I think this was quite good. Just have a swift look at the old diagram again. We've got the old controller here, and I'm using the old P5 again. So we've got the controlled output on the right hand side feeding the track, and then the uncontrolled on the left hand side, so we're just taking the feed from the left hand terminal there, which goes to the center inlet on the relay switch there, just like a point switch. So we'll just have a look at the back of the old controller there. So there we've got the controlled output, which is operated from this, and this is the uncontrolled output here. So we're just taking that black cable all the way across to the relay switch. So we've got the old black cable there we were just looking at, runs right into the old relay switch there in the center terminal. It's a little bit like a point motor, isn't it? It's just a solenoid switch. Now we've got the two red cables here. If we look at the diagram, we can see each of the red cables leads to a separate trip switch, one either side. So as the locomotive rolls over this trip switch here, it's going to pull the metal weight or iron bar inside this solenoid motor across to this side, and it's going to make contact between these two metal points here. So that just closes the circuit, which is separated by the isolating track. So if we just look at that, we've got the isolating track there. So when that's closed, the track's energized between those two isolating tracks. We go back to the old diagram again. So the train rolls off from the station at that point, but then it rolls over trip switch number 2 there. So that throws the solenoid and pulls the metal weight. This side, thus breaking the contact there and making the isolating track do its job, so it's cutting the current. So there's no current between the isolating track and that isolating track. So that means the next locomotive that comes along comes to a grinding halt just as it crosses there. It really is quite a simple thing, isn't it? And I think it could have hours of fun, this, but just view this through the eyes of a 14-year-old back in the early 1960s. Now these sets, I believe, were available from 62 right through to 69 into the trying Hornby period, and I believe they were again re-released in the Hornby Railways period for System 6 track in 72 to 74. Let's see if we can have a look just inside here. It is very difficult to get this out of the box. So you can see it is still sort of wrapped in yellow tissue there, and we've got the old instructions just tucked in there. Let's see if we can pull those out. And we'll just have a quick look at those. We've got Rovex Scale Models Limited, Westwood, Margate, Kent. So it's very soft paper, this is. It's very fragile. I'll just open that up. Let's see, we've got lots of information here. And we've got a couple of layouts which could be tried with the old set there. So we'll just have a swift look on the inside. And it's definitely got a certain feel about it, this type of paper. So it's got all the information you need there to make the thing work. So I'll just pop that to one side, and we'll have a look at the contents. So I'm just going to gently pull this out in its tissue paper. There we go. Now when this came to me, it had been in fairly poor condition, and the rails that are in here have rusted sadly, so I've cleaned them up a little, but they're not in their best condition, I don't think. I'll just pop that one down. And here we've got a couple of isolating rails, so we can see where the rusts have come into the old packaging here. There we go, so we've got a couple of rails there. I'm just going to put those down to one side. Now, we've seen isolating rails in recent videos, and these are just the same thing. You can see they have had the effects of rust there, and I have cleaned them up to the best that I think they're going to be there. So we'll pop those down, and then we'll just have a look what's in this other roll of tissue here. I'm just going to gently unroll it. And it has a certain smell about these things. I don't know if anybody's ever opened these old Triang things. There is a very distinctive smell. So we have a variety of different rolls of wire here, all neat and tidy with ends on. So we've got brown, red, green and black. And then we've got the two actuating switches, which I believe were available separately. I think all the parts for this were available separately. So we'll just pop that down, and then here we have the solenoid relay here. So we've got a variety of inputs here, just like an electric point motor, and then we've got the two connections either side to control whatever item we choose to control with it. So it's sort of brown plastic, and on the bottom we've got Triang, and then we've got the catalogue number there. And then built in Britain, so a really nice thing to have.
If you keep your eye on the relay switch on the left there, you'll see the armature jumps backwards and forwards as the trains pass over the trip switches, so it just opens and closes the circuit, making that piece of track just ahead of the station there dead, bringing the trains to a stop.
You can see I've got the old relay set up on the table here. We've got a couple of trip switches here, and we've got the feed, and here we've got the switch. I've already taken the top off. There's not a great deal to see with this. You can see it does have some ventilation. There's some recesses in the sides here to allow the cabling to come in. And we'll just pop that to one side. So here we've got the old relay, and there's the trip switch, and the other trip switch. So if I press on this one, it makes contact with the rail and makes the armature jump to one side, and if I press the other one, it'll leap the other direction. It's much more of a snap to it than when it's sharing the power with the two locomotives, I have to say. So I think it's more positive. So there is in the instructions advice that if you're going to use many of these switches on your layout, you should introduce a separate power supply for it. I think that would definitely be a better idea. Then you're not sharing the power, and it'd stop the models from speeding up and slowing down so dramatically each time they go over the trip switch. There we go. So it's quite a positive thing in itself. So you can see how when the armature jumps to this end, it's going to make contact between these two contacts, and that would let the power flow to something, wouldn't it? So it's a great way of switching something. Very simple. As I say, we should be viewing this through the eyes of a 13 or 14-year-old in the early 60s who's never laid eyes on an iPhone. So it really is quite an interesting thing, isn't it? Imagine the fun you would have had with this. We'll just pop that to one side again. So if we put that down, now I think this solenoid motor is very similar, if not the same as the one used in the old Series 3-point motors. So we'll just whip the top off this one. It's a great big old thing, isn't it, the old Series 3-point motor. There we can see the armature will jump from one side to the other there. So really nice looking things, aren't they? Look at the weight of that cable on there, that piece of wire there to throw the points. It is very heavy weight, isn't it? Have a look at that against an old Super 4-point motor. So lightweight, look at that. More like a pin. So if I turn that over, you can see the old solenoid motor in there is tiny compared to that, isn't it? So we'll just put these to one side. So have a swift look at the old trip switches. So they're very simple things. They just clip into the old track there. And you can see that they just hover above the rail surface. If you keep an eye on the old solenoid switch down there, we'll just press that and it jumps to one side. And we'll press the other one. And there we go. So quite simple things. If I just pull one out, we can have a swift look at it. So quite stiff to get out. There we go. And just pop that down. You can see it's a very, very simple thing, isn't it? And that pin connector just goes in there and makes contact with it. So I suppose that if you left something lying on here, you're going to burn out the solenoid quite rapidly, so you mustn't let anything stand on there for too long. So we'll just pull that out. It's quite stiff, so great thing.
Just trying to catch up with this pair of trains, charging around the same oval of track again, stopping and starting in turn automatically at the station there. It's a great thing. It's quite hypnotic, just watching it over time. Now this set was sadly discontinued in 1969, but it did return again in 1972, set up for System 6 track. Now I'm going to leave you this time with page 32 from the 1972 catalogue, in which this new set was featured, along with a different set, the R.407, the pressure switch control set, which would enable control of a passing loop by just using the trip switches. Now also on this page is a really exciting set, the RS690, the auto running 2-train set. What a thing. Now that was a set which had a pair of trains, short trains I think, with a passing loop and a set of pressure switches, or the trip switches, which could control it. What a thing to get in a box all in one go. That must have been a day opening that, mustn't it? Now I really think that's it for this week. If you look back again next week, we'll have something else to look at. But thanks again for watching. Goodbye now.